submitted. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's just one of those things. So
Yeah, when it's
I don't
submitted
know.
via text, it's easy to miss those sort of things,
Yeah, it's
versus,
easier. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. But yeah, there was an issue because it was like 2-0 by the time it was brought to the admins, and then they had to make a decision whether to reset the entire series and start over again or just continue from there. And then it was ruled that basically Frozen didn't do anything wrong in this instance, and they continued on with it. So just a minor thing. You know, not really worth talking too much more about it, but at the time it did cause a little stir. So just clarifying it, I guess, for some of the folks that didn't understand what was going on. Okay, well, let's talk about some fun decks. Let's talk about some decks that we've been messing around with, and this is always the fun part. Just
Yeah,
for
that's
folks
the best part of the show.
Yeah, best part, exactly. Not so try hard, but just trying concepts that can lead to hopefully coming up with some cool stuff like Jackie does a lot of times. So I'll go first. I'll go first
Sure.
and show
Help
my help myself. Show I guess my shaman that I've been playing around with, and I call it Crusher just because it's kind of it has the same flavor as the old Crusher shaman, where it has the earth elementals and ancient ancestral spirits. So it's kind of my version of it. It's been performing well. I mean, I've gotten up to rank 3 with it, and then I'll just get bored and play something else and then drop again and whatever. But this is a deck you can get to Legend with, I'm pretty sure. You just have to probably play out, grind a bit, but you can get to Legend with this deck. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's just the premise of it is just like starting with the shaman, just the power of the shaman early game, and then just kind of almost going into a druid mode. Just like giant minions from like turns 5 and out, and just like you have to have removal, and you better have more than just 4 removal because there's a lot of big minions coming your way with just the Fire Guard Destroyers and the Faceless and the Earth Elementals and the Frozen Giants. But I've been playing around with the cards that I swap a lot of times are Thunderbluff and even the Mana Tide. I've been kind of just changing out. I've tried all kinds of things. Valdir Raider was pretty interesting. There were games where just my opponent could not destroy my Valdir Raider, and I just win with like a 12-6 Valdir Raider, some weird giant Valdir Raider. So I tried that. Tried Totemic a little bit, but right now I'm trying the Thunderbluff just because I feel like with the Frozen Giant and the things from below, I end up with a lot of totems that just like sit there and chill, and don't do anything.
So, like, here's a question: Have you tried to take this deck, like to the slowest possible point it can go, which means you just cut out, like the Trogs and the Totem Golems, and you start making it a control deck with the Destruction, and you play Knowledge, to cycle your deck, and then you just start playing, the whole spam totem until like turn 5, and then you wipe the board, and then you start dropping the big dudes, where you have like huge threats one at a time.
I've tried it. It's not very consistent. I mean, it's probably, you could probably still climb. It's just even slower than this one, because this one, where it does have some mid-range elements to it, right? Mid-tempo elements to it when you have like the Unbound element. There's just something about Unbound. I'm just a sucker for Unbound Elemental, all right? I fucking love that card. I don't know why.
I actually thought the card would see more competitive play than it has. Like, I haven't seen it in competitive play at all, but I really love the card. Like, it can be fairly easy to get it pretty big.
Yeah, and
you need to add Wind Fury as a single copy in this list. You cut out the Thunderbluff, add Wind Fury, you get 1/7/7 stick, the Fire Guard or the Earth Elemental to stick, and you just go full smorg.
Yeah, I've definitely gone that route before too. I've gone the whole crazy, combo route, just like more of what you were talking about earlier. Just go full out control and then some kind of combo finish. But yeah, I think the parts that are kind of interesting are the Unbound Elemental play, right? But then followed by like a Fire Guard Destroyer. If you have Fire Guard and Faceless, it's kind of cool the decision that you always make the Destroyer play, because you can play the Faceless the next turn too, right? And you have this just snowball effect that can be just unrecoverable by your opponent and you just win super fast. Like
there's no BGH to punish you, right? When
there's
25% to 7, more.
But I run BGH. I run BGH in this matchup, which has been great too, because I felt like I was missing just a little bit more consistency with removal from a 7/7 or whatnot, and it's actually helped quite a bit. Been cool.
I love the Frost Giant. How's Frost Giant been working out?
Yeah, it's been good too. It's something I tried recently. It's just another big minion that ends up being, you end up with turns where you play things from below and Frost Giant in one turn. That's fucking awesome. It's like it's ridiculous good. And you get a totem too a lot of times. It's like totem, you get 3 minions and they're like one's an 8/8 and one's a 5/5. So it's pretty big swings at the end.
What if what if you were to like lower the count of destructions, put in say an additional storm, like you could play it as a quote unquote crusher shaman by curving out like mid range. Instead, you've got like a much bulkier game plan, and you start adding the Tusker Totemics in, because if you're gonna play things from below and the Valiant in it, you can still find room for that. So you cut destructions, maybe like cut the Manatide, add a second storm, 2 Tusker Totemics, then you're curving out like almost like exactly mid range, except you've got like line after line after line of really big threats when that starts coming out.
That's true, but I like the resetting of the destruction. Sure. Especially when you have lava shocks and stuff. It's just nice, and even if you don't have lava shocks, you can still get like a totem or a 3-drop a lot of times on the board.
Yeah,
and
always.
You have these giant minions that give you an advantage on the next turn probably. So there's something about the clean wipe. There's the Lightning Storm frustrate. That card probably is the most frustrating card for me in Hearthstone, because it always comes short on key cards. It drives me crazy.
On one minion.
Yeah.
It just has to be like the most important one.
Exactly.
If they keep like a 2/1 instead of a 2/3 that dies, suddenly your removal sucks and you can't play X or Y because that combos with other stuff they've got. And your game goes to shit. So I can get behind the sentiment.
But anyways, give it a try, guys. It's definitely a lot of fun. And if you like to play big minions, man, this is the deck to play.
You just have to like sprinkle in a Ragnaros, man. You find room for Rag, and you just.
I've tried to play Ragnaros, but it's not cheap enough, man. Ragnaros, this is like literally 5 mana below. Everything you play here is 5 mana and below. Like if anything above it, you can't play it.
I'm definitely gonna try this out.
I'm sure you're gonna. I hope you try it actually, Jackie, because you'll probably come up with some awesome innovations to it. Okay, Noxious, you have a Cthulhu deck that oh man, it's kind of small here, but let me see if I can fit it on here. A Cthulhu Hunter.
So here's the deal, Jackie.
Yes.
Because I think you'll find this interesting. I thought this deck would be nothing but memes and garbage. So like I went into this deck and I assumed the worst. And I was so nicely surprised by it that I started eating zoos up for breakfast. So what happened is you're basically cutting the beast synergy. You never have like kill commands are gone. You have no Hound Masters, no high mains. You don't rely on those cards at all, and you're just playing a zoo game. Except, and that's the stupid part is like you actually beat zoo, because of the 3-drop Disciple, which puts a body on the board and gives you free kills alongside. You can just set up a bow to protect it or whatever. So I found this deck was like way better than I expected, and I guess it's just because mid-range Hunter wins games on the back of its own hero power and Call of the Wild. And this is what I realized at that stage is just okay. So as long as you play okay minions on curve, you're good to go. Infested Wolf is less powerful than Cthulhu's Chosen individually, like when it comes to dealing damage or trading up. When you combine it with stuff like Quick Shot, the really tough cards that I just don't like too much are like Finley. That's a gimmick. That one's really tough for me to. I can't really find a good sub. The whole 5 to 6 turns being dead. Like I've only got a Jure Drake on 5, which I added because I wanted to cycle cards.
Yeah.
I found that if I didn't play it, I was running out of card draw, and if I didn't have any, if I put high mains, the deck was too slow. And then I wanted to play Hound Masters, and every single time I went back to standard mid range. But this list is actually like Bran is carrying hard. I just don't get it. I don't.
It looks really, really cool. How's Argus working out?
It's actually the game winner for me.
I've done that before. I've actually played Argus instead of Hound Masters in the past in Hunter.
Yeah,
it's been pretty good. Yeah.
It looks really, really cool.
You should have a bit of fun with it. Again, like you're gonna win the same way every Hunter wins, which is, I Call the Wild, you're dead. But sometimes you'll just get those crazy games where Zoo's on the board, and because you have like the 2 bows and you've got the Disciple, you just stay there.
I know that we had this discussion before, but I think I still add 1 high main just because the Twin Emperor is great. Actually, the Twin Emperor is an awesome 7 turn, for a hunter.
The
So if
only
you, yeah, well, right. But I'm just saying, like, what I mean, there's no other hunter that has that type of 7 play, right? So I think that's extremely powerful going into Call of Wild. So if you could just curve through, I mean, there's no way you lose, right? If you can get a 6/5 and then curve through.
Like that's the question, because my big issue has been Azure Drake, obviously, and Finley. These 2 cards are really floatable. I found the Finley to be kind of acceptable, given that it's flexible in this type of list. You can find live tap, but it also detracts from your game plan, which is hero power a lot and then win. So yeah.
I think maybe you could drop a Beckoners, like 1 Beckoner.
No, man.
No?
You don't drop less than 6/2 drops, and Hunter is suicide.
Yeah. I think Beckoner's fine as well, because 2 mana is one of Hunter's kind of weakest mana slots right now. I think the Beckoner's fine. I kind of like, I want to put, I would like to see Dreadscale in this list, but then there's so many 3 drops already.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I see. Okay,
Wow.
so I mean, I could cut Unleash for that. I could cut Unleash for that. You know, you cut the Drake, you put Dreadscale, and you cut Finley, you put a second Hunter's Mark, and we're good to go.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
Actually, that's I think that's
fucking roll.
an
Let's do
improvement. Yeah.
I don't know if it's an improvement, but it certainly is a sub. It certainly is an interesting change.
I agree with not having Finley, because whenever I'm playing Finley and a slower control, or not control, but a slower hunter list, it always seems like it would make sense, but it just doesn't, because against aggro decks, if you're using your hero power, you're going to lose anyway. Yeah. So it doesn't even matter if you've changed to something else. And against control decks, the hunter hero power is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
You're right. Anyway, just to say, like, I have been memeing with this deck quite a bit, and I've just been surprised, because I guess people don't anticipate the curve plays that you've got, and that's what makes them pretty strong. Nobody thinks you're going to be running a Disciple of Cthulhu on their 2-drop. So when you do it, suddenly it's like flip a table time, and they don't understand what's going on, and suddenly they have to start playing around an entirely different strategy. They still play around Houndmaster because they don't know what the hell you've got. They still, like, the threat of kill command keeps them on their toes. Everything just you benefit from the other hunters being actually relevant decks.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Definitely gonna try this one out. Yeah, it's gonna be a hunter night, man. It's pretty much what it's gonna be tonight. Totally. Okay, so now we're gonna go follow up with another hunter, which is Jackie's hunter, Reno Hunter. Before we actually get to this one, we're gonna do Q&A right after this, guys. So start tweeting your questions to at ChanManV or at ValueTownGG, and we'll start asking them in just 1 second. Okay, Jackie. So this is a N'Zoth Reno Hunter, which sounds awesome. This is kind of what I've been wanting to build. So talk us through this.
I've been trying a lot to make N'Zoth Hunter work, because it seems like it should make so much sense. They've got so many strong Death Rattle minions, and then you have the Call of the Wild as a good finisher anyway, and N'Zoth can just close out any game. But it seems really difficult to survive without any heal, and obviously there aren't many strong healing cards in the game, so I just thought, screw it, let's play Reno. Just put 1 copy of everything in, and it's essentially a control hunter, but it's kind of like, it's a deck where against aggressive decks you're the control deck, and you're just clearing everything, but against other control decks you're the aggressor, and you're the one, you're still playing things like Cairn, Infested Wolf, Houndmaster, like cards that can be aggressive, and obviously using hero power over and over again. So I really like it. Yeah, I think it's not refined yet.
I think you pointed out like some good things, just some good issues that Hunter has, which is healing and also just full board clear. You know, this isn't like Warlock that has Twisting Nethers, you know, and like literally entire boards just go away. You have to finesse these like a lot more with Hunter. And how has that been, I guess, with your experience with this? It is like, are the power shots and the obviously Doomsayers there too, Unleashes and the Dread Scale, has that been enough to
I played a lot of Control Hunter before the expansion, and the main weakness was that you had no way of clearing patrons. Like, patrons were impossible to deal with. Like, even Dreadscale Acidmore doesn't clear patrons.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's true. Holy crap.
And now less people are playing patrons, so the removal isn't as necessary. Like, we still have the Dreadscale, the power shot. Explosive shot is actually really nice. I actually really like it.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, I don't see explosive shot in the
What do you think of multi-shot?
It's hard. I feel like it's
4 mana 7/7. Enough said.
Yeah, but I mean,
are we done here?
I mean, it's good against Feral Spirit at least, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna find good
Yeah.
curve plays sometimes, but they still flood the board, right? Very often.
True.
And it doesn't kill frothings and makes them worse. So yeah,
It's just one of the other, just removal cards that Hunter has that's not there too.
yeah. Gladiator's
I
Longbow
think-
would be pretty good here.
Longbow. Yeah, you love that card. You love Longbow.
Yeah, I love that card. I
Yeah.
think it's underrated for like those janky control lists or janky. You know what? Let's put that in my hunter list. Let's
Let's throw that in the
Yeah.
Cthulhu list too.
like how's it been playing without like arcane shots and on the hunts? I mean, they're not like necessary cards, but if you add like Blood Mage, have you considered maybe putting Blood Mage with an on the
I was
hunt
running
somewhere?
Blood Mage initially, but then
Okay.
too often I was just not using it with spells.
I
So I
see.
guess it would make sense if I was running it to run on the hunt, stuff like that. But I didn't really like it. The main weakness of the deck is the lack of card draw. Like you do rely on finding things on curve because there's just no good hunter card draw right now.
Discovery. Yeah, you try.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. Like that's why I'm using like Tomb Spider and Ball of Spiders because like you can still add cards to your hand without needing the card draw.
Have you
Lock and load.
have you tried
Reno,
lock and load? Like
bunch
just
of-
at least maybe
I
adding
haven't.
adding one or two more spells instead of minions and doing lock and load instead.
I haven't, but that's definitely something I mean, it's
You
not.
know what?
I still need to work on.
I mean,
But,
again, like if you go for the Blood Mage arcane shot on the hunt list, then suddenly lock and load makes more sense in that
Yeah.
approach.
Yeah.
But I think it's still strictly worse than playing for minions in Hunter. But it's
Yeah.
something to explore.
You got a ball of spiders in this deck.
I mean, it's
you got a
obviously-
ball of spiders in this deck.
Obviously, more
Wow.
the fun factor than.
Yeah.
You mean the viable
It's just-
factor?
It's just great playing Ball of Spiders and then playing Nazoth and just getting because they removed Web Spinner from the game. I'm
Yeah.
just cheating Web Spinners into the game.
That's
It's like-
true. That's definitely true. No, but this will be good. It'll be good to see if you can climb with this thing, or I might even just try it just to see how far I can climb, just in regular ladder, just in the non-legend ladder, just to see. Yeah, but anyways, good stuff. Lots of different decks for you guys watching to check out, and those of you listening too. I'll definitely provide all the links to all these decks, in the descriptions for the podcast too, so you guys can check it out whenever you get home too. But let's take some questions. While I'm looking at the questions, I do want to give a shout out just to the folks that support the show. Also listen to the show on iTunes and the Google Podcasts too. So big shout out to the patrons that are supporting the show: CJ Hines, Shane Sherman, Lucas Capdeville, Jacob, Sebastian Feld, Jacob Perez, Atomic Junkie, and Ben KM. Just naming a few of them each and every week. Big thanks to that. And we do have a Patreon if you do want to support the show at patreon.com/valuetown. And I'm kind of in the midst of revamping it because just trying to get it more updated to like what we're doing right now. So definitely check that out and see what the cool milestones and rewards and all that stuff out is right now on the site. Also, I want to thank the folks from iTunes that leaving 5-star reviews. Mayor of Valuetown left us a nice 5-star rating, and then Jambis also did too. So big thanks to you guys too. It's a big way to help out the show without even giving a dime or anything. Just leaving ratings on iTunes helps folks find Valuetown if they like to listen to it on their mobile device, on their phones or whatnot. But let's take some questions. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Murloc Paladin as seen in Asia Championships from Marcus Wall? I didn't actually get a chance to see the Murloc. Oh, actually, I did see the Murloc Paladin. Yeah, I did
Right.
see it. I forgot about that, actually.
Well, anything can happen, Paladin. It's not quite Murloc
Yeah,
Paladin,
yeah.
in the way it's phrased, but I mean, I don't even know. I guess you'd have to be banning warriors every time in order to play that deck at all. And how well do you really fare against? Like the question is it better than Nazoth Paladin? That's kind of the big question. Is as far as the
End game,
the end game. Like, is it better to just play Murlocs on curve and use them as quote unquote removal with the little bluegills, or are you just better off playing big death battles and winning on the back of that? I would favor the Nazoth approach. Personally.
I would personally also favor the Nazoth approach. I mean, with Old Murkai being removed, I know it's only one minion, but it's a huge deal. And to me, Nazoth just seems more powerful. Like, I'd rather play Nazoth and get my Tyrion, Cairn, Sylvanas, and all these things back rather than It's kind of... Personally, I prefer the N'Zoth route.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the old Anyfin pre-patch or pre-rotation really was carried by, you know, having good cards like Minibot and Muster for Battle. In general, they allowed you to get to those Murlocs at some point, and it was actually okay tempo to play a 3-3 for 3 that did nothing for now. And it was okay to throw away a Murkai, but now that you're down to all these tools being gone and you're relying on Forbidden Healing to stay alive, and you're praying to cycle properly with a Pyro or Doomsayer into Solemn Vigil, like that's a lot of ifs for you to get to those 4 Murlocs, and then you have to chain them often twice nowadays if you're playing against a deck that has high health total, because you won't have damaged them during the game, at least not a lot. So yeah, it's one of those...
So every aspect is weaker than it used to be in terms
of... That's for sure, but I feel like it's weaker than... Like, the combo is still strong, but the problem is, like, the way to get there is no longer reliable.
It's not as strong as it used to be, too, because you can actually survive. You can actually survive it. You can survive both of them, which before it was impossible to survive it. But yeah, I mean, the Cyclopean Horror, I'm looking at He's Not Axel, because that was, I think, He's Not Axel got really far, too, and we saw a lot of his deck. Cyclopean Horror, what do you think of that? I mean, that was definitely the card that stood out the most whenever I was watching him, too. Like that card?
I'm not a big fan of it, personally, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's great against, like, Zoo and Shaman. But that's what the Doomsayer and the Consecrated and the Equality and the Wild Pyromancer and all these other things are for,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same. I mean, you need to substitute, I guess, like the Belcher and the Healbot. Like, you need to find alternatives to those, because those are supposed to be the cards that get you there. Like a long time ago, that was kind of I mean, I guess at that point you could also run those cards to stay alive. But nowadays, like, what's the alternative? Cyclopean Horror is not one of them. Like, Cold Apothecary and Cyclopean they feed off of your opponent's strength. It's kind of like Little Exorcist. They're just failed, quote-unquote, tech cards in many aspects for a game like Hearthstone.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Vajta Hanslik asks, what about Ping Ping Ho's Shaman? So let me go to Ping Ping Ho's Shaman here. Where is it? Was it special? It's a mid-range Shaman. Let me see.
There was, I think, 1 or 2 cards that were interesting about, like, unusual about it, but...
Oh, he played Windlord. Oh, he played Hammer of Twilight.
He played
That's cool.
Hammer of Twilight,
yeah,
which was
cool.
the card that I wasn't expecting.
Stormcrack, too, actually.
That's fine. I mean, killing a Tomb Pillager is good. Killing a Totem Golem is pretty good, so yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of powerful 4 health targets. I think Stormcrack's fine.
He's only playing 1/7/7.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, but he's playing 2 Earth Elementals, so I gotta give him props for that one. And he's playing the 2 Ancestral Spirits, so it's like pretty similar to. It's similar in a way to what I was playing, but he has the Fire Elementals. He's playing more the straight up big minions there at the end, kind of what you would typically see, and then the Alkir at the end. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty strong. It's like the mid-range Shaman with the Earth Elementals added in the Ancestral Spirit. So
yeah, and no Thunderbluff.
No Thunderbluff value.
No Thunderbluff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, this does really well against aggro. Like, once you get to, like an Earth Elemental or even a Things from Below, and you have an Ancestral Spirit, it's like Zoo just cries. I mean, it doesn't even matter if they waste all their Power Overwhelmings and everything on it. They eventually do trade most of their minions. So it does well against that.
Yeah, but to answer the question, Murloc Paladin's not too good.
Yeah, well, that was the last question.
Yeah, but even this one, like I feel like just in general, Shaman is very much linear. Like, the way you build a deck nowadays, there's a lot of ways you can build your Shaman and you can tweak it, like you saw the Crusher Shaman you built.
Yeah.
But the further away you stray from the quote-unquote hybrid Shaman, which is like just between mid-range control and the highly aggressive one, which has been largely abandoned, the further away you stray from this, the more and more like you're specializing and you're weakening your overall matchups. Like the core list of like 30 Shaman cards just wins.
Right. No, it's true. Okay, we got another question from Nicholas. I always butcher his last name. It's, how do you pronounce this, guys? Let me get your opinions on this.
Okay, what the hell?
I should just ask him. I should ask him.
What did I miss?
It's Nicholas Laravire.
Okay.
What is it?
Fuck it, Chan, man.
Okay,
Chan,
I mean, I feel bad because he's a patron too, so like,
Nicholas-
I always screw it up. So
Nicholas Lariviere.
yeah. All right.
Okay, all right. There we
that's,
go.
That's a French word.
That's-
French name.
Yeah, I want confirmation that that's right, actually, Nicholas.
I know, yeah, exactly, Nicholas. You need to tweet and let us know, man, or at least let us know the pronunciation, because he's been a supporter for a long time. He asks, any thoughts on Firebat's suggestion for a best of 5 last hero standing ban tourney with a tournament ban on Shaman? No love for Shaman, man. No love for Shaman. I think any kind of deck for any kind of tournament format that's a little bit different is never a bad thing. You know what I mean? Just trying out something, just giving a little bit of a different flavor, whether it's Challenge Stone or any of those type of things. So I think that it's along the lines of that.
You could just add like a tournament with 2 bans, right? They bring an additional deck, and you let people ban 2 decks instead. Shaman's always gone, and then that's another one. Unless they let it live, and then they've got this crazy plan to target specific stuff in your lineup. But you get the gist of it.
I think the ban Shaman would be really exciting because everyone's like a lot of people just ban Shaman anyway, just because it's so powerful.
And those
I think it'd take a lot of like decision making and just.
I say we ban every class except for Priest, and all you can bring are different Priest classes.
I entomb, you entomb. I entomb too, you entomb too. All right, I guess I lost the entomb war.
Oh man,
Jesus, that game.
Yeah, I think now that you mentioned Noxious, I think you're probably right with that. Just having something that's just more, universal, like a rule that's more universal, that it pretty much allows you to ban Shaman every time if you want.
But Blizzard doesn't like the class bans. I mean, we did it.
Definitely doesn't. They don't like that.
And what was it in closed beta against Druids, or it might have been before Hearthstone's client was released. Anyway, we had a tourney that was run. I think it might have been on the emulator back then, and we just literally said, if you bring Druid, you're disqualified. Like, don't even try. There's no point. Because Force of Nature, was 5, and Starfall went face, and Wrath went face, and everything. You get the idea. It was stupid, and we did it. Blizzard, I assume, didn't like the idea of it. Back then, somebody suggested something similar sometime in the closed beta, and Blizzard, I don't think they vetoed anything, but they definitely hinted that they didn't want it to happen. Might have been you, ChanManV.
Well,
in one of the events a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had an issue like a year ago, or maybe more than a year ago at this point. I forget exactly now, but with the whole deck worst thing, where I was trying to ban cards, right, because there was a patch coming out that was going to basically remove 2 cards, so I wanted to do that, and they had an issue with that. But that was a long time ago. Like, since then, we've done challenge stones and all kinds of events that have some kind of subset of cards to use and things like that. I think they're a lot more lenient about things like that. So if Firebat wanted to do that, I bet they would allow it. I mean, it's just, as long as it's like a standalone, like a one-off type of tournament, they probably would. I don't see why they wouldn't allow it. It's fine, in my opinion, at least. Doesn't affect the World Championship or anything. You know what I mean? It's just like a fun Firebat tournament, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
The Fire Cup.
The Fire Cup.
Don't bring Shaman.
The Fiery Bat.
Oh, man.
Or something. Play Hunter only. So that's definitely pretty cool. Still a format that I want to do eventually, but let's see. All right, any other questions you guys have? Let's see. Oh, here we go. There's a question from Orgabai. Would you like to see more zoo type of decks in the meta from more classes other than Warlock? That's a good question, because the zoo term, for those folks that didn't play Magic or any other TCG, everybody just assumes that zoo is Warlock, right? That play Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Because we've never actually had another deck that was definitively called zoo. That's another class. So that's kind of interesting, right? I mean, it is possible to have a zoo concept, right, in another class.
Yeah, I mean, before the expansion, I played a lot of, I don't know if you know, Egg Druid, which was pretty much the same thing. It was about playing lots of cheap minions, buffing them, and just dominating the early board in the first few turns. And there were actually, even though it's a very aggressive style of deck, there are kind of a lot of decisions to be made. And I really like the kind of early board control type style of decks, but Zoo and Shaman do it so well right now. I
want
can't
more
see
of
how
it?
anything could contest.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Warlock, you just draw cards. I mean, your hero power draws cards, so you never run out of it.
I mean, Zoo nowadays isn't even the same Zoo we like, because we used to say Zoo is a board control deck. I mean, some of the lists that you see now are just degenerate. Some of them, like the Zoo plays. I mean, they're degenerate aggro at this point. Sometimes they're legitimately trading, but without creepers around, with Knife Juggler being slightly nerfed, a lot of those cards that changed, Zoo can no longer afford to throw away damage the way they might have been able to a while back. So they have to sometimes commit to pushing a little bit earlier. So it's kind of a different Zoo than what we're used to. But when you look at the Shaman and the way they Zoo, yeah, they both classes have burst. And in order to have a viable Zoo deck to contest these guys, if you have burst in your class, that would be tough. Like to contest these two guys, they just seem to do it so well. And if you make a better Zoo that's about tempo, or that's about just trading on board, then you need to be able to defend against that burst at some stage.
Yeah.
And then your board control must be obscene, because if you beat Totem Golems and you beat like what Zoo already plays, I mean, what the fuck kind of card are you given is the problem. So I'd like to see more, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to see people playing Yetis all day and smashing them into one another.
Those were the great days, man. With the with the imp giving one health to all of our minions, like pretty much every single turn. Oh god, it's just crazy thinking back how strong it used to be. Stupid strong. Okay, Twitch chat. Any questions you guys want to? We'll maybe take one or two from Twitch chat today. You've got a potty mouth, is what they say.
I've got a potty mouth. I do. Yeah, I swear a lot. Just.
Oh gosh. Okay. Anyways, ask your questions, guys, and then we'll call it a day.
One thing I would like to see is I would like to see a more aggressive rogue archetype with the new 1-mana 1/2. I can't remember what it's called.
I have a list for you if you want one. I think I showed it on a previous.
Ray
episode.
had one.
I know.
Right?
Say what?
I think Raynet had one, right? Like
a
week or two
I had
ago.
a very aggressive list. I think I shared it with you a while back. I know somebody got the top 100 with pretty much the same thing. The question is whether or not it ever works beyond the element of surprise, right? That's kind of the big problem with those types of rogue decks. And there was an interesting list from Yagut, which you might have seen, which plays double sprint, no gadget stand. That is more on the mid-range side, not hyper aggressive, but it plays Squires, which gives the Cold Bloods repeated value.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That one was really cool too, from Mr. Yagut. So
I think Raynet had a really aggressive one too.
Yeah, he played a highly aggressive list.
Yeah.
He wants the aggro rogues to exist as well.
Which it can work with any class that can't life gain. So
you need to draw, man. That's the issue with that faction.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just
faction, that class.
yeah.
I mean, their hero power is like best for controlling the board.
Yep.
So.
Early too. Early, it's great. Let's see. Lots of questions we've probably answered in the past. State of Yogg Druid, I think we talked about that in the very beginning. Still strong, guys. Actually, okay, so Gek10 asks, experiences with Wild so far. Have you guys played any Wild format? Actually, Noxious, you have, right? There was like a period of time you were playing a bunch of it.
Yeah, I was playing more Wild. Well, the thing is, I also tend to play with other people as well. So we'll go like in a 2-man Skype call and play games. Wild was an interesting place because it starts off as this very diverse metagame where it's a rainbow of, hey, I built this myself. It's amazing. I'm having fun. To Justice Demands Retribution, Shields Up, Red Alert, and then you want to kill yourself. And then N'Zoth Priest shows up at the end of that sequence. And again, your life is, trust me, like N'Zoth Priest in Wild is the stupidest, most broken thing. If priests ever were a thing as a control archetype and were viable, like the nightmare of it would resemble that. So
what's so good about? What makes it so good in Wild?
Deathlord Belcher. Need I say more? I mean, how the do you beat that? It is so ridiculous, man. Like it is insane. And then you've got Zoo, which is doing its old thing, except a tiny bit better, but not by much. So yeah, it's just like the higher levels of it are very metagamey, but getting there is fun.
I'm surprised there hasn't been any or there hasn't been a good number of wild tournaments. I figured people would try to focus on that, given that HCT is the standard or the standard tour just storyline, right? That nobody's gonna. It's going to be hard to actually get a lot of viewers, I guess, for any kind of similar format. So I figured people would try wild, being that there's a completely open format that nobody's there's no competitive storyline for that yet. I figured people would try it, but I haven't seen anybody come up with something that's regular or even a big version of it. Any reason you guys think? Is it just like, I haven't played it enough to really comment on it, but is it just unplayable right now, or is it just like the meta is just, defined? I guess I don't know.
I'd say like when Doctor Boom is too slow for your format, and it is.
It's too slow for.
I'm not kidding. Doctor Boom is way too slow for wild, like way too slow.
What?
Yeah, dude, it's fucking unplayable. Like
what?
I'm exaggerating a tiny bit, but not by much. Like some of the decks in there, just you don't understand what a paladin does nowadays. Like it is absurd.
Well, I can imagine. It's just super paladin like on steroids.
You can't imagine.
Basically.
I'm trying to like express it. Just go there. Like, see, here's the deal. Imagine a world where like I play Monsieur's Challenger, right? And I get all my secrets. I get like a full rainbow, and you play Eater of Secrets, right? You fuck up my entire secret, and I still win. I could play 2 challengers, you could play 2 Eaters, and I would still fuck you up. That is exactly the state of Paladin and WoW. So you have no understanding of how broken it is. It is just.
I haven't played.
Don't go there. It's a dangerous place.
Definitely with Darkshire and things like Muster, it would be crazy. I would imagine. But I don't know. It's hard for us to know until we actually see. I'd like to see, the highest level of deck builders and things go at it, and let's just see like how stupid of decks that we get. But stupid decks fighting stupid decks. That's still pretty interesting to watch. Right?
It would be fun to watch for sure. But the issue is right now Blizzard only supports standard as a means of getting like tournament.
Oh yeah, but forget that. Like somebody could hold a tournament that's just wild format.
Who would come? Like I mean, the pros are all busy trying to theory craft the best. Maybe off season you'll see a little bit more of that.
Who would come? Just like come up with some money and then they will come. Come up with a $5,000 tournament, like a $10,000 tournament. They're going to come and play it. That's. I'm sure they would. Yeah, Jackie's down.
Jackie would go.
Jackie's down.
No doubt. I'm sure pros would show up to the event itself, but it would have to have like that big prize pool, and I think you have to make it enticing. Because the thing is, you can't make it poorly. It can't be a poorly run tournament because like it has to. The first wild tournament, it wouldn't be the first really, but like if it becomes a big thing and a recurring thing,
it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be like this crazy. Serious thing, but just a consistent, not a one-off tournament, but something that happens like maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and just see what happens. Cool. Like the only thing that would make it bad is if like all these old decks just come back and they're exactly the same and they're just strong again. That's it.
Well, Druid's changed a lot,
and that would be boring.
It's not quite the case.
Yeah, I don't think that would be the case. I think we would be seeing a mixture of both, which a mixture of both is an intriguing thing. I think, in my opinion. So anyways, if you're out there, thinking about playing an event, try a wild event. It might be pretty interesting, and maybe the community will respond to it. I don't know. If you get the right players in it, people will come and watch. So it's just about getting the right players to play in it. Okay.
More monies.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, I think that's gonna be it, guys. That was a fun. Wait, actually, there was one. They said, Strife Crow won it. There've already been a wild. I know there's been a wild tournament. I just don't know if it was.
There was a wild. Yeah, there was a wild tournament. Like I think the biggest decks are the ones that worked. N'Zoth Priest was a thing, and we saw I think Midrange Hunter that was running Boom and N'Zoth.
Okay,
if I recall. So anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
It's been done a little bit.
All right, guys. Well, why don't we do some shout-outs, call it a day. Jackie, always a lot of fun. You're pretty much perfect for what we do on the show. So, just like talking about ideas and decks and just meta and wacky stuff. So, always a pleasure having you on. Welcome to come on anytime. But any shout-outs you want to do?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun. Yeah, shout out to my team, Fate to Karma, for supporting me and like trying to make a career out of Hearthstone and stuff. And yeah, if anyone wants to come check out my stream sometime, CKIECHAN on Twitch. See you there.
All right. Yeah, definitely check out his stream. He's always doing some
man.
funny stuff. It's always a lot of fun too.
That's all I do.
Noxious.
Shout out to Complexity, as usual, for being the team that they are, and to you for putting together something nice, little information for us to talk about.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks.
The bromance is strong in this one. But yeah, for real, like, I think this show is pretty cool. I think it'd be great to have you again on the show, Jackie. It's a good vibe.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's fun. Nice to meet you guys as well.
What do you mean? You've been on here before. Nice. It's like we're meeting for the first time.
You guys.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. No, thanks to you guys for doing the show. It's always a lot of fun. Everybody that's watching right now, thanks for tuning in. Ray's in Thailand right now. No, he's in Turkey right now, so he couldn't.
Thailand, a little bit of a difference.
He's somewhere over. He's actually
is not
somewhere around the world that's not in the U.S. So that's why he can make it this week. Hopefully, we'll have him back next week. Talk about some more stuff, more Hearthstone, and until then, tune in to the audios podcast if you haven't, or if you like to listen to it on the way to work or whatnot, or you just didn't catch the beginning of the show. You can do that on iTunes and Google Podcasts. I usually have the audios up a day after. VODs will be up very shortly after this, though, about an hour or something like that. You can find that at youtube.com/ChanManV. Follow these guys on Twitter. Our Twitters are right up there. And until then, guys, actually, one last thing. Of course, the meta report, and all this stuff you can find on, Tempo Storm. Thanks for Tempo Storm for sponsoring the show, as well as their sponsors up there. But there's also another cool thing I found on the competitive Hearthstone subreddit, which was, let me bring it up. Hold on a second. It's a cool meta tracker, basically. That just wanted to make sure I get it right. The VS website has a pretty cool meta tracker that they do a really good job of showing you at least what the meta is at the current time. So you might want to check that out if you can on the VS site. You can go to the competitive Hearthstone subreddit and check it out too. I think it's near the top.
ViciousSyndicate.com, honestly.
Yeah, Vicious Syndicate.
Yeah, ViciousSyndicate.com. You'll find it.
Just go there and you can check that out too. And I think they're refining it too, and that's something that I was wanting to do for a while too, from the standpoint of coming with something that just shows you what you should play like at this moment, right? And or at least what the ladder's like. So they're trying to do something like that. Check it out, and I guess just support the community and support that subreddit too. Competitive Hearthstone subreddit, it's awesome too. Okay, guys, until next week, for Jackie Chan, Noxious, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next time. Later.